Hello and welcome to the 56th edition of Half Hour, a podcast starring me, John Paulo Giudice, as your host. In today's episode, I will discuss the negatives of fast fashion with Joseph Pescatore. Thank you very much for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me, John.
I really appreciate it. Joe and I know each other from Peabody High School. That's like the origin story, you know. So
we actually went to elementary school together too.
Yeah, the Burke.
Burke School. John Paul was big into space.
Yeah.
I admired that when I was a kid.
Always.
He was always the space kid. I loved it.
Yeah, we'd go out back for recess, and I'd be like, guys, like, these rocks look like they're from the moon. Or,
Yeah.
or like something like that.
He was one of the smartest kids when we were a kid.
Oh,
like,
come on, man.
You saw him, it was like, this kid's going places. Definitely doing something right.
I was always building the Legos and like
the Legos too.
About it. Yeah,
oh my God, you got
Legos too much.
Because like as a kid, Legos, it was like, oh, it's all fun and colors. You were building real sets, like the Star Wars sets, all that. Like that was cool.
It was
to
inspiring.
See as a kid.
The Lego sets, like, they inspired me a little bit, like the space, like especially the Lego Star Wars, right? Like doing that, like, helped build this passion for me.
Yeah, and like I think it's really cool how it's come like full circle, and now we're here.
Thanks, man. I think this topic's gonna be cool too. I'm excited to kind of jump into this video because even before we got on, you were so like passionate about this, man.
Like with fast fashion, it's like I feel bad because a lot of people aren't really aware of the negatives that come with it, and a lot of people are just so easily influenced by what goes on online. And if people tell you to do something, you're probably gonna do it. So like brands like Fashion Nova, like Shein, Zara, like all of these like really cheaply produced fast fashion, trend hopping kind of brands that really associate with no moral values, and it's more just to make money off of cheap clothing and unlicensed material, and it's really negative because of how much waste comes from it and the products they use and what they use in these products. So like a sweatshirt, if it's a cotton sweatshirt, 100% cotton, you can break down those fibers easier to recycle the sweatshirt or whatever it is versus something that's more of a combined fiber, like a synthetic, like polyester and cotton mixed. You can't really take them apart, I guess. It's a lot harder, I guess. So a lot of countries and a lot of companies send them to third world countries to get a second use out of them. But a lot of the times they can't really salvage much of it because it's poor quality clothing, and it's just not what they want.
You have me thinking about how with capitalism in general and companies operating, it's almost like a race to the bottom to make a product that is produced efficiently,
yes,
and can be sold quickly. Like what you were just showing me about how these companies will push their product to be as efficiently made as possible, to be sold quickly, to be worn quickly, to even to break down quickly. I mean, there's a saying, they don't make things like they used to. You know?
And that's the thing too. It's like I would rather buy a sweatshirt that I know is high quality for $100, and I'll be able to wear it for the next 10, 15 years, and it might get run down, but it won't be falling apart, versus a sweatshirt you get off of Shein or any of these other companies where within a year, it's fraying, it's breaking down, it's literally disintegrating off your body, and it's not really good. It's not good for the whole world itself, because there's so many landfills now that are just filled with all of this just trash clothing that's either getting buried, burned, or just left there. So it's definitely not good, and I don't know, I feel like a lot of people don't really understand it because a lot of it is outsourced to third world countries, and they're kind of left to deal with it themselves, and there's a lot of like just riverbeds and all types of stuff just filled with clothes, and it's ruining one beautiful countries, and it's also kind of putting a chokehold on these other countries that can't really get rid of the stuff or make a profit off of it. So it's just, I don't know how to explain it, but it's going to have a very, very negative effect in, I think, the long run, within like the next 10 years.
Yeah, you were saying that, and also what you were showing me too. Again, the clothing industry is one of the biggest polluters.
Yeah.
And there's so many different companies that are, engaging in sending their product from, whether it's in the U.S. to go somewhere to be to be donated,
Yeah.
right, or to be used like in these other places, but it's really not an efficient way of doing it.
Yeah.
And moreover, it's kind of like there was this race to the bottom, right? Like we have companies that are stationed here that create their products in like other countries, and then like the amount of pollution that must be there as like a side effect from producing these clothes, in addition to like the clothes themselves, it must be insane,
Oh, yeah. And like the thing is too, it's the regulations of other countries too. Like nothing against another country, but like China, India, Pakistan, they don't have the same regulations that we do as a country. So it might not be the cleanest of clothing or the cleanest of materials that go into your clothing. They might be using chemicals and artificial dyes and stuff like that. And a lot of the times too, people get skin rashes and skin irritation just from the clothes they're wearing. But if you were to wear 100% natural cotton, I don't think you're going to have any skin problems or anything like that, unless you're allergic to cotton. But there's a lot of people that they'll get like chemical burns or chemical rash from a piece of clothing, which is just, it's very scary to think about.
Yeah, and it's in the food.
Yeah.
It's in the clothes. It's kind of like, I think, collectively there's been this loss of like high quality products matter,
Yes.
and the past 100 years has just kind of been like how much product can you put out doesn't matter about the quality, and that ranges everywhere because now we're learning about the microplastics in the clothes and in the food.
Yeah, there's babies born nowadays that have microplastics in their bloodstream, and it's like no one really knows where that came from. And I feel like a root of it is the food we eat and the clothes we wear and just everything we consume as humans. And I feel like there's definitely a common theme between the two, because there is a lot of waste, but also there is a lot of contamination between stuff like that, and like all of like the burning of plastics and just the way people get rid of stuff and just the pollution in general. It's just not good, and a lot of places don't have the regulations that we do, to the point where we kind of pawn off our stuff to them because we know that they'll get rid of it and we don't have to deal with the consequences of it. So a lot of like third-party companies that start these clothing donation stuff, like the bins you see on the side of the road or like at the libraries and stuff like that you put the trash bags of clothing in, those get hand-picked, and all the good stuff is sent to either get resold to actually make money, and all the crappy stuff is sent to third world countries for them to pick through, try to sell at their markets or whatever. But at the end of the day, a lot of it's just ripped, not good quality, or it's just not what they want. So they end up shredding it, burning it, burying it, just everything. And I feel like a lot of people think that when you donate clothes, it goes to someone less fortunate, and someone's gonna get that T-shirt that you loved, and they're gonna wear it. But a lot of the time, it's just donated to landfills or just the masses, and it's honestly a business and a huge problem, because I feel like it's a big facade. It's a huge facade that everyone thinks that like they go to thrift stores where people buy them, they get cleaned and all that, but a lot of the time it's just landfill and third world countries that they don't even want it because they're the ones making half of it. So then it comes full circle.
Yeah.
It comes back to them in horrible condition, and they can't even salvage it or recycle it in any ways because of the synthetic fibers and all the synthetic things that are made into it, where you can't naturally break that down.
I did a podcast with one of my buddies in Europe, and we talked. It's like along this avenue, but it's more about like more just pollution in general, like physical pollution. Like the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is like insanely big.
It's insane.
I think it's at least the size of France, from what I remember. And you have me thinking about how a lot of these videos you see of like the pollution, there are bits of clothing in the videos. I was really thinking about it. I'm thinking of the 6-pack thing.
The 6-pack with the rings.
Yeah. Yep. I'm thinking of like the bits of clothing. I'm thinking of like just bits of like just plastic in general, like just floating around in there, and it's really sad because in a lot of other countries they burn, like what you were saying, they burn it and it goes into the air.
Yeah,
they do have tires we're all too. Breathing.
Yeah, like the tires too. Like there's no way of getting rid of tires, like car tires. So there's countries that have literal football fields full of tires that they just burn all day, and it's it's horrible because no one knows about it, and I feel like there's a lot other better solutions to do other than just burning it.
Right, like isn't there? I bet you it's more expensive to do this.
Exactly.
That's why. But I was thinking
what it
that
roots
you
from.
could repurpose these tires. Like I don't know anything about rubber manufacturing, but
Yeah.
from what I understand, if you can't break it down so easily, there has to be a way to utilize this rubber for something else.
Yeah.
You know.
Like one thing I saw was shredding it for football turf. Like those little pieces of rubber you see in the football turf.
Oh yeah.
Instead of making producing new rubber to make that, use old rubber to just shave down 30,000 tires, and you'll have enough of the AstroTurf for the fields.
Yeah.
But they'll never do that. They'll produce more rubber instead of reusing the other stuff and chopping it down.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff like that. There's a lot.
Well, I think this gets into how there's such a push nowadays for how do I put it, like climate regulation, but it's not just climate. Like it's more than just that. Like
Yeah.
people talk about the climate a lot, but oftentimes when these people talk about the climate, they're also talking about like this greater pollution problem,
Yeah.
right? Like the air pollution, the water pollution,
And,
the
like,
food pollution.
Landscape pollution too.
Yeah.
It's like you go places and like what is it, what's the deepest place in the ocean?
Oh, the Mariana Trench.
Mariana Trench.
Yeah.
Didn't they find trash at the bottom of it?
I would not be surprised.
Like, that's-
I really would not.
It's
be,
crazy to me because like even like clothes too, like they don't float, like they sink. So
Yeah.
like who knows how much cloth and other types of fibers are sitting at the bottom of the ocean.
And the fish swim in there and
Yeah.
get stuck and they die.
It's just it's
Yeah.
very crazy, and there's a bigger picture to think about because I think everyone goes on with their everyday lives just consuming and just trying to please the masses by what they wear or what they do and how they do it.
Yeah.
That they kind of lose touch with the fact that like what they're doing has real world consequences, especially in like mass numbers like that.
And I'm thinking about how, just a bit of a side note, but I'm going to bring it back, right? So I took a course in college when I was in Europe about how the European Union wants to push norms and values. So internationally, when they do business, they have norms and values that they want these other countries to adhere to when they do business deals.
Yes.
But generally, I think that the Americans are very cognizant of like the climate and pollution crisis. I think that as like a national consciousness, we kind of like understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And I bet you most other countries sort of do too. I don't think it's developed to the extent like it is here. Like there are so many interest groups here that want to change these things.
Yeah.
But I think a bigger issue is that there are countries that don't care. They just do not care.
Yes.
They don't care.
Yes.
They're there to either catch up economically, but it's not any better than what when the industrial periods hit Europe and America in like the late 1800s. It's
Yes.
not any better. I mean, there's a book I'm reading about how in Massachusetts specifically, there wasn't a 10-hour workday limit. So a lot of the factory owners would like push their employees to the limit.
Oh, yeah.
While other states had these 10-hour workdays, and it's kind of like that's just one little microcosm I'm getting. This book is so dense.
What's it called?
Actually, it's in here. Yep. Okay, hold on a minute. It is called The Know Nothing Party in Massachusetts. Great read. I am not very much the way through it. I'm not the best reader. I have a bad attention span.
I am the same way.
But it just has me thinking about and it was talking about Lawrence and Lowell and how these mill towns, which I will say it is kind of cool how we utilized back then the rivers to like use the energy. Like that is cool. I will say
very cool.
But
Even all the tanneries in Peabody you see now, it's I forget what street it is. I think it's
near that bar, right?
Yeah, it's where Evans Flowers is. Do you
Yep.
know where that is?
Yep.
Whatever that street is, there's there's tanneries all over there, and like the same thing. There's a body of water that they would use, and it's like it's great. Even Lynn too. Lynn used to be the biggest shoe manufacturing city, I believe.
Oh yeah.
In like the whole world at
Yeah.
one point, which is crazy because like I can't imagine the stuff that the pollution and the waste and all the other stuff that was going on there.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I know that even the Charles River used to be
Oh my
like
God.
diabolically
Yeah.
colored, you know,
Well,
like
even
disgusting. What was it, like green or gray or like brown even? Now it looks a little better. Now you can actually potentially go swim in there.
yeah, it's like there's a lot of just pollution that people don't really realize, I guess, that it takes over your own kind of ecosystem around you, and you don't really notice. But I feel like America already went through that kind of phase of like, we're tarnishing our outdoors because of
Yeah.
greediness for industrialization. But I feel like a lot of countries, like you said now, are doing that same thing, and they're going through that phase, and they just don't care. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of regulations and stuff like that, so I feel like once you break it down to that, it's like you can't govern the whole world, and you can't have your country's legislation somewhere else.
Yeah.
So like you can't, like us as the United States, we can't give China any consequences or anything like that because we don't write their laws. Like they can do whatever as
And
long.
they're very strong now.
Yes, very.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. It's like if you want, like they can do their trading laws, whatever the trading laws are. If they, they're good with those, whatever they abide by those.
Yeah.
That's all we care about. We don't care about how they produce or how they pay people or wages and work hours and all that, to the point where like I feel like the consumerism of Americans and what we take in is hurting a lot of the other more producer countries, such as like India, China, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and a lot of these countries are suffering because of our dire need to consume. Like these companies will pay people pennies on the dollar to make tens of 20s of dollars off each person,
Yeah.
and it's just like we just want cheaper stuff, but the other people across the world in these countries are suffering with long work hours, not good wages, not good working conditions,
Yep.
and it's all because we want to wear cheap clothes that last 2-3 wears. You wash it and then it's literally ruined. Like once you wash it, a lot of these clothes too, it's like, yeah, once you wash it, it's ruined. It's either it's falling apart, it's shrunk, or it's just a completely different shape
Yeah.
than it was. So it's like,
I bought a T-shirt. I bought a T-shirt like a few years ago, and it was like it had like an astronaut on it, and he was like pouring white paint onto a black. Like the shirt was maybe it was the other way around. I don't know, but it looked like they were like it was space related.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, full circle.
yeah,
But,
I love it.
Yeah, but like the shirt was so poor quality. Like I remember I put it on,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'm itchy.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I like moved my arm, and I heard it like tear a
Yeah.
little bit. Yeah, it could have been too small, but I'm telling you, this shirt was the most low quality item I have ever purchased.
Yeah.
You know, and I was kind of like, this would be a great like,
Gag gift.
or even like something to put on the wall. Like it
Yeah.
looks like a poster.
Not to
almost.
wear, yeah.
like you can't wear it. It's like it's useless. So
Yeah.
it felt like it was made of nothing.
Yeah.
And I bought it thinking that it was going to be like a normal shirt, you
Yeah.
know, and like it wasn't.
Yeah.
But you know, you got me really thinking about how, despite all of how these companies operate and how they don't really care about the environment in this sense, right? We all breathe the same air.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
at the very least, we might not even all drink the same water. You could buy like purified, immaculate water. You
Yeah.
know, you could. But the air?
Yeah.
But this raises a whole number of questions, right? Like, you know, am I wrong that we all breathe the same air?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who
I don't
knows?
know.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we do.
I'd hope
But
so.
I remember as a kid, they used to tell me this. I'm sure they told you too, but like they were like, "Oh, when it rains, don't stick out your tongue. Like, don't drink the
Yeah,
rainwater
'cause it's
because it's
acid
dirty.
rain,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like dirty. Like
Even the snow too. It's like don't eat the snow
Yep.
because it's like it's not good. There's all types of stuff in there.
that's to me that is mind-boggling, right? Because I've been hiking in New Hampshire and Maine. Maybe not in Maine during the winter, but I have been in New Hampshire during the winter, and I'm gonna grab a fistful of snow and eat it. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
that's just who I am. Like I'm gonna pick it up and I'm gonna eat it. But in the back of my head, I'm like, 100 years ago, maybe even a little further back, this was like pure,
This was clean.
clean.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, like sure, there might be some like virus or bacteria in
Yeah.
there, and I keel over and die, and because it's 1840,
Yeah.
there's no
Get
vaccines
malaria.
or whatever. But yeah, like whatever it is, but I'm still like that's probably not going to happen. You
Yeah.
know, like probably not. But my main point here is like the fact that even the most basic of things that have been occurring on this planet for millions and billions of years
Yeah.
are changing now. Like you can't just drink the rainwater. You
Yeah.
know? I used to love the idea. I used to tell my parents, I'm like, this is a brilliant idea. Let's get like the rain barrel and let's like, you know, we
Collect
can
our own
filter it out.
rainwater.
Yeah, like why not? I think it was just cheaper to use the city's
Yeah.
facilities.
PVD is
obviously.
also cheap too.
Yeah.
Our electric and water, because we have our own plants, so it's super cheap.
Yeah, we also got like the malls here. and,
Yeah.
like we got a lot of business here.
A lot of stuff.
PVD's pretty nice.
Pretty. Like another thing too is like like the microplastics and
Mhm.
the stuff that
Mm-hmm.
there was no microplastics 100 years ago. So like when they were producing stuff, they weren't even making it out of plastics and stuff like that. A lot of it was more natural. I'd say resources like
Yeah.
like wood and iron and real metal, and that's why stuff like lasted to the point now. There's a lot of like synthetic materials and very cheap based, mass produced materials they're pretty much designed to break, so you have to go buy it again.
Yeah, and I again like I just fail to see how this doesn't affect the top. You know, like the top echelon of people.
Yeah.
How does this not affect them? You know, so.
Yeah.
I'm left with more questions than when we started, you know,
Yeah.
like really. So it's like, what's the solution? My general pitch would probably be to enact some sort of code or policy to reuse more materials.
Yeah.
Get serious about recycling. I remember
Yeah.
when I was over there, this is kind of weird though, right? So in my kitchen, we had 3 different colored barrels, and I used to like separate things
Yeah.
until my roommate came up to me and said, "You realize it all goes to the same dumpster
place.
downstairs."
Yep.
And I was kind of like, "So it's like a facade."
It's all a facade.
And I was like, "Okay, whatever, I guess, you know, so just throw it wherever." But I think it's kind of like people are not going to go out of their way because it takes too much time, right? Imagine if you had to
Yes.
take all your trash and you drive it to like a redistribution facility, and they're like, "Oh, make sure you put all your cans here."
Yeah. I feel like it's too unrealistic now because of the size of population we have and how like self-centered people are. Like people would just if you were to try to regulate the trash and like how people recycled and did all that, I feel like people would revolt and just like start leaving trash like random.
Yeah, they'd be like,
places.
"I'm not doing that." You
Yeah.
know?
And like you see it all the time. Like, I was at the mall the other day, and I was literally going to go park in a spot, open spot, thought it was open. There's a trash bag just right in the spot, and I was like, "Who left a full trash
Yeah.
bag of just garbage
That's diabolical.
just in a parking spot?" It wasn't even like a McDonald's bag. It was like a black trash bag full of trash, and I was like, "Wow."
This is something else.
Not only can I not park here, but someone just left a whole thing of trash. And there are public workers that clean up and sanitize and clean everything and whatever, but there's always the people that fall through the cracks that go pollute and hide it. Like they'll go in the middle of the woods and they'll throw car batteries or car mufflers, all types of crazy stuff, or even
I saw a mattress on the side of 95. yesterday.
exactly. And it's like
Just chilling in the gully.
yeah,
Like, yeah.
accidents happen too. You know, you'll be transporting stuff in a truck and stuff bounces out or whatever. But
Yeah.
also, I feel like people should be more liable for what they're doing to the environment.
Yeah,
but
and-
it's hard to pinpoint people's effect on it.
Yeah, and part of me is like, okay, if you can't get people to change their behavior at home, right? Like, and like maybe you shouldn't impede on people's lives that much. You
Yeah.
know, like we're a free country.
Yeah.
For now.
For now,
But like what my main point is like, now I'm thinking of what AI could do, right? So like imagine
Yes.
you go to you know the JRM up the road on Route 1. When all the garbage goes in, I know that they actually try. Like there are companies that are actually trying. They're
Yeah.
doing their best. Maybe not their best, but they're trying. You know, they're putting some effort in.
but it's also the people too that work in sanitation and the garbage
Yeah.
industry too. It's like nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to be cleaning up trash or doing that. It's your civil duty at that point,
Yeah.
and it's sad because it's not a motivating job to do. And I feel like a lot of people, I feel like that's why we're at this point, is because it's like no one wants to do the dirty work for the greater good of
Right,
humanity.
and it's kind of like, in our country, we're in this moment where it's like, why should I do the greater good?
Yeah.
You know, everybody hates each other, you know.
Yeah,
So it's like why even bother? You
Yeah.
know? This has been one of my most like kind of fiery episodes, to be honest with you, because we're both kind of talking about it. But like, to get back to the AI thing just for a second, like, what if there was a way that the garbage could go through these facilities and you have a program kind of determine like, okay, like this is plastic, this is paper, no matter the particle size, you have like a scanner of some kind. How much money would that cost? Is it even feasible? Like these are all questions, you know? But
I feel like that's what plays a big role into it too. It's the money and the funding you have to do it. It's like we're funding so many other things. You might not have room in your budget to open up a whole different section of your, I don't know, city planning to clean up the city.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of other things in your community that you could dump money into. So it comes down to more of a volunteer thing, I would say more. Just do your part. Like like you don't have to go out and go clean up the woods and go like take trash, but just the way you consume, know where your stuff comes from, be a lot smarter, I'd say, and just think long term. Like if I buy this T-shirt today, am I gonna be wearing it in a year, or where's it gonna end up? So I feel like a lot of people have to think about the end result of what happens when they buy something and like where it goes after, because I feel like a lot of people too are misinformed and also just very naive to the fact of where their stuff goes, and it even goes with like just plastics in general, just random like just trash, toys, stuff that can't get recycled, to the point that it just gets thrown in these landfills and it gets buried and people forget about them forever. But like what we said, hundreds of years from now, archaeologists are going to be digging up human history, trying to see like what's going on in the year 2020, and they're going to find just football fields of trash and clothes and all this stuff, and they're going to say in the masks.
They're going to say 2020. That's why.
But like the 2020s, sorry, not 2020.
Yeah.
But like like what was happening in the 2020s, and they're going to find mass graves pretty much of clothes and just garbage and trash, and it's like the movie WALL-E.
Yeah.
It literally is, because it's like they break them into these cubes and then
stack them up.
They stack them and they build with it. It's like I can see society going to the point where they start building out of just trash, and it's an aesthetic.
Yeah, right.
They trick people into thinking it's an aesthetic.
Yeah. Oh, it looks good.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, the sunrise in WALL-E is like the whole environment is just diabolical.
But like the more you get older, and like I remember it was a kids movie. Like you watch it, you're like, oh, this is cool. Like they're going into space. Wow, this is cool.
Yeah, see? Yeah.
But now it's like, oh my god, like this might be a little more of a reality than we think, given it is a movie.
There was some subliminal messaging. Definitely. Definitely.
Because like it's not on that scale yet, but if you don't wake up and realize, it'll be to that point, and you won't even, like it's like the blink of an eye. Like you're just like, oh, we're here.
And it's just the world is encountering so many problems, and it's getting worse.
Yep.
Like definitely, it's getting worse. You know. A war started, a major war started in Europe. Now you have one in the Middle East.
Yep, Yemen.
Yemen, and in Israel, Palestine, that area.
Palestine, yeah.
The Houthis in Yemen, in the Red Sea, and then I know there's some potential for conflict in West Africa and in South America as well.
And China, Taiwan too.
Yep.
There's so much conflict. Yeah, and there's so much going on in the world right now. It's hard to focus on recycling and the environment and stuff like that, but it's very true though, but another thing too is all the conflict and all the war going on, that's probably bringing way more pollution than we can even imagine.
Oh my God.
With all the bombs and everything going off, it's like there's a lot of damage being done. So it's tough to really pinpoint what the biggest problem is, but it's also good to realize what the problems are.
Yeah.
And work on them collectively.
You know, and it's hard, right? Because I understand when people say, you know, again, like the messaging that I got from the media and from the news and from like all these other sources was like the United States is like the country that we can do anything.
Yeah.
You know, like we can do anything.
It's a land of opportunity.
Yep. But I've known nothing except this mass division between people, you know? And it's just very sad because all of these things need to be taken care of, but it's very difficult to do something when you have a divided society.
Yes. But I feel like a lot of people do have the same ideas and the same grasp on things. Mm-hmm. They just can't come to a common ground, or even just like come to the realization that they can talk to each other, just because they have different political views, or they're from different parts of the world. And I feel like the United States, social media in general, has weaponized like just being yourself and
Yeah.
talking with people,
Hmm.
and it's got to the point where people walk on eggshells.
It's
Kinda
all tolerance. It's all you got to
Yeah.
be tolerant to
Yeah.
people. You know, like I've met people that are from all parts of the world. Like I was very fortunate to go to this school in Europe and really meet people from all of the world's continents. You know,
Yeah.
and all these different cultures, like mixing and learning with people and like learning how they do things. And some people come from a culture that's very like Western. Like of course we're from the United States,
Yeah.
right? So the furthest extent west you could go is
Yeah.
America, and it's actually a very liberal society. And I've met people from, you know, the Middle East, South Asia, even East Asia to an extent, Eastern Europe, Central Asia. These can be much more conservative places, and people harbor different beliefs there, different, like, this is how we do things.
Yeah.
And the beauty, or what's America is supposed to be, is like you're supposed to be tolerant of all these different people coming in,
Mhm.
and everyone's supposed to kind of just coexist, land of opportunity. You
Yeah.
know, we're here to not only make money but to provide a better society than
Yeah.
from all these different parts of the world that people come from, and that's the American dream. You know.
And I feel like that's what makes it so beautiful, is like you have people from all different backgrounds and all different ways of life and just different cultures, and they all come together and they share their beliefs and their traditions and their music and their dance, and it's become such a prevalent thing in this country that like everyone is very proud of
Yeah.
who they are and like where they come from. But a lot of the times too, no one's ever American. Like no one's ever.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's always someone's something, and like I'm Irish Italian. I'm sure. What are you?
I'm like Italian. My grandmother came from Belgium after World War II.
Yeah.
She grew up with she grew up with the war. You know, like
Yeah.
that's what she had to go through.
And like that's crazy to think, because like people like that see war in front of them in their homeland, and they come over here for a better opportunity,
Right.
and you talk with other people and you share your experiences too, and people relate to you, and people think that like, oh, okay, maybe this person isn't as bad because they're just from somewhere else. And I feel like that's like a thing now with all the conflict that goes on in the Middle East or even
Mhm.
Europe and all that, is you have people from those countries that are here, that live here, and will still advocate for those countries, like Israel, Palestine. There's millions of people that will advocate for Palestine and Israel, and I feel like America being a place where you can talk about that without any conflict really happening, and kind of coming to a common ground and understanding both sides of the spectrum and what's going on. I feel like it's very good, but also to the point where it's like people weaponize that to try to bring each other down when it's no one's really fault at all. It just
Yeah.
matters where you're born.
Yeah, and it's kind of like to solve all these complex issues that humanity faces.
Mm.
I mean, first we kind of have to do it at home. You know,
Yeah.
like we have to kind of. I think we have to check ourselves a little bit.
Yes.
The world kind of knows that we're experiencing some sort of decline, but the history has not passed us by. You know, like it's not over.
Yes.
You know, like
Yeah.
I don't know why this. Our best days could be yet to come.
Yeah.
You know, and like I don't know why it has to be like people are so downtrodden about it, and
Yeah.
like there's no hope.
I feel like morale is really low too, because I feel like a lot of people just lost faith, lost their patriotism, I would say, or like nationalism and their pride for their country. And I feel like a lot of people now is just a lot of moping around and a lot of complaining, but no one wants to make a change, and they should.
Yeah, we
'Cause
gotta get proactive about it.
Yeah, and I feel like social media too it's such a great tool for it too, but
At the same time, it's
it's so it was made to be such a great tool and network and be able to talk to anyone from around the world, but now I feel like it's used as like a vice for a lot of people, where they act accordingly to what the agenda says that they want to follow on social
Right.
media. So it's
Right.
like, and people are scared of like real life confrontations and conflict.
Yeah.
So they'll never bring that up in real life, but they get on their keyboard and they're a warrior,
I think I was just I'm gonna touch on this for a second. I think like real life confrontation, as long as it's not violent, But I'm saying like verbally, you should get that practice in. I mean, our whole country is about having these disagreements, confrontations, like coming to a compromise, like there's some level of like maturity's not the right word, but you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like an important aspect of like, okay, so if we relate it back to like the fashion industry, it's kind of like you want to see these changes, but there's going to be people with different opinions, but everyone's again walking on eggshells and they're too afraid to like publicly be like, hey, like I don't agree with this. Well, I don't agree with what you said, and it's like, okay, let's talk about it. But it doesn't have to be like,
I feel like that's the thing too, is people are so dead set on their opinions, is they feel as if they can't learn from someone else on the other side.
Like, you gotta be open minded.
Yeah.
You gotta be.
Because I feel like a lot of people, like Democrat, Republican, it's like this country's split between the two. Like the Dems won't listen to the Republicans because they just think they're so crazy and they're wrong. The Republicans won't listen to the Dems
for
because
the same reason.
They think they're so crazy and wrong. And it's like, I feel if you were to actually sit down and not have a political shield in front of you to show people what you are and what your beliefs are, and you just sat down and talked to these people without knowing what they are.
I think most people are very reasonable.
Very. But there are the extremists that like are really, like, I can't hear either side. But like it's for good reasons too. It's like they're passionate, and I feel if everyone was, I would be more scared if everyone was on the same page. If everyone was on the same page and agreed with each other, I'd be more scared because I'd say something's not right.
Yeah,
like,
something ain't right.
Yeah, so I feel like that opposition of your thoughts or whatever, just the devil's advocate. Like the devil's advocate is so important, whether you believe what you're saying or you just want to do it to open up the mind of who you're talking to.
Exactly.
I feel like it's very important. It's very important because it's just you have to generate different ideas from what people are originally thinking.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like a main thing about
key.
Yeah, it's like a main thing about like growing as a person too, is one, admitting you're wrong and being able to like, I don't know, come to terms with yourself and also educate yourself on stuff that you might have thought you were very educated on. But it's like someone that has opposing opinions from you could teach you something that your point of view.
Many in high school, everybody knew it. I had very strong opinions, but I also listened to people.
Yes.
Like I really would listen, and I think that some individuals may have missed that about me, but I sit there and I listen because it's like I'm gonna learn more than just like throwing it back in your face.
Exactly.
I do want to say though, we're well past 30, which is fine. I don't usually go over like 40. So if you want to, just any last thing you want to throw out there.
I mean, back to the clothing thing. Just find out where you get your not find out where you get your clothes from. Be careful where you get your clothes from. Look for quality. You don't want to buy the same thing 10 times over and it's just not being good quality. You want to just buy it once and it's fine and it's good. And a lot of people, I feel like, take the cheap route because of the financial decision they're in or position they're in, and they make decisions based off that. But if you can't afford the real thing, don't buy a cheaper alternative because half the time it's not good for the economy, the environment, and it's just not good for you because you're selling yourself not only a fake dream but just not good quality goods, and it's bad for the planet because even if you don't see it, like somewhere down the line, someone else is going to see the consequences of your purchases, and that to a higher scale. So if it's just one person doing it, it's not that bad, but when it's promoted by major influencers and hundreds of thousands of people are all doing it, and it's becoming such a rapidly growing thing in the last couple of years where it's starting to really show itself.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this only took a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like it's only been like less than 10 years, and there's already major consequences coming out of it, and like there's a lot of stuff you see in the world that's coming from it that's just not good. Shouldn't have happened.
There it is.
And I feel like just bring good quality goods back and stop planned obsoletive. Like you can't just keep buying. Stop consuming. I'm the worst person at it. JP.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Guys, that was 56. Look out for the next one. You know, if you want, like, comment, subscribe, typical stuff.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, watch out for the next one. Peace.
Deuce.